How we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to talk for a few minutes about the cancel scan meta in World of Warcraft, and how if you really want to go about making gold in the game, or more importantly engaging with the auction house in any way, shape or form, you've probably come across this term, and you're probably frustrated by the fact that if you try and list something on the auction house, you'll get undercut almost instantly, and it proves to be very, very difficult to sell your items in game. So why do we need to fix this? Well, I mean, we've kind of touched on it a little bit there already, that if you're not using this cancel scan system, that you're basically not selling items through the auction house, and that if you're not using powerful tools like Trade Skill Master, you in essence can't compete. I've had this theory for a little while now that the add-ons are not only becoming a little bit too powerful in World of Warcraft, I almost feel that if they were to be removed from the game, then actually players would quit the game at the same time, painting a picture that maybe the game is not too rosy without them. But in turn, this should, hopefully, by making a few subtle changes, create a fairer auction house experience for all. And that's realistically what I wanted to get across today, is that making it slightly fairer for everybody will improve the quality of life, generally speaking. There are some people that would naturally fight against this. If you are one of those that are happy to sit at the auction house for multiple hours at a time, cancel scanning, you probably reap the rewards of doing that. You probably end up making a sizable amount of gold compared to somebody that doesn't do it. But, you know, those that put more effort in should arguably make a little bit more gold. I get that for sure. But what can we do to try and alleviate this without making too many big sweeping changes in the game? Well, I came up with a couple of things that's pretty simple. Firstly, I think the auction house listing fee needs changing. This is a very, very simple implementation for Blizzard to be able to do. It doesn't require any, dramatic overhaul of systems or the way the game works at a fundamental level. For reference, at the moment, the way the game works is that the listing fee of putting something on the auction house is based on its vendor value price. Now, this vendor value price is dictated when that item is created by Blizzard. So if they say that something vendors for 10 gold, it may cost you 1 gold to put it on the auction house, but it doesn't matter what you post it for. You could post it for 1 gold, or you could post it for 1,000,000 gold. It will still cost you that nominal, like that really, really tiny amount to list it. If they changed it so that instead of being based on the vendor value, they switched it to being based upon the list price, it would do a couple of things, right? It would certainly, on the higher value items, it would mean it would cost more to list them, and especially in markets like the legendaries, where what's the average price of a base legendary nowadays? Probably 20,000-30,000 gold at this point. If you were to be posting those and cancelling those and posting those and cancelling those, if you were being charged 1 to 2% of that value each and every time you do it, you'd very quickly realise that you were just burning money. You would make it so that the cancel scan meta in essence would just disappear because of that. A few things to go along with this though is that you would absolutely have to 100% refund that list fee if the item sells. This is still the way the game operates currently, but I think it would need to be reinforced even more so and made a lot more apparent if this change was to go through. That, you would want to, if you're going to take a greater risk to put the item on the auction house in the first place, you'd absolutely want to make sure you get that gold back when the item sells. If it expires though, if you've posted it and it doesn't sell, then you've lost your auction house listing fee. That's the risk that you take. To alleviate some of the problems, though, that I foresee with this, you would need longer auction house listings. What have we got now? 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours? For current expansion content, for high-moving items, for consumables, for materials, sure, that's fine. Two days as a maximum listing, sure, I get it. But on slower selling items, maybe higher value items, listing it for only 2 days is definitely not enough. My recommendation would be to add a 7-day and possibly even a 14-day listing, which is another thing that could very, very easily be implemented into the game. Doesn't require a huge change by Blizzard themselves. So let's give a quick example then of how this would look in reality. Say you're posting something on the auction house. You've been out and you've been killing some mobs. You've completed your dungeon. You've done the raid, whatever the case may be. And the Pants of Awesome have dropped for you. Yes, the epic loot that is the Pants of Awesomeness. You decide currently to post them on the auction house for 12,000 gold because you think that they're quite rare and they're quite valuable. At the moment, they may cost you 10 gold to list on the auction house, not too bad at all, and you can post them up there for a couple of days at max. 48 hours is the maximum duration. Now, the way that the auction house works currently is if somebody else posts their Pants of Awesomeness very quickly, you're going to be inclined to cancel yours off and post them back on again. But under this change, if you post them for 12,000 gold, you could be spending upwards of 120, maybe even more, just to put them on the auction house. But you've got the flexibility now that you can choose to post them up there for 7 days if you wish. This means that you're less concerned about somebody posting one underneath you for the fact that, well, if theirs sells, yours is next in the queue and yours is going to be up there for 7 days anyway. You're not in, a huge rush to get the gold. You know the item's relatively rare anyway. There's a good chance that in 7 days 2 people might want it, so you're happy to leave it there. If the Pants of Awesomeness sell, you get your 120 gold back either way. In theory, everybody's a winner. So I know this system sounds pretty simple, but there are some pros and cons to it. So I'd like to very quickly go over the pros and cons as well. I'm sure some of you have already typed out some of the pros and cons, but let's touch on them real quick. The pros for me, I think this, apart from the obvious, removing people's desire to cancel scan, it would mean that you can just post and go. Not only can you post and go, you might actually sell something. The gameplay of making gold should be in the farming of items, in the crafting of the items, not necessarily in, the selling so much of the item. The auction house is meant to be the tool for you to sell things, and I think that this will promote a better use of that tool. Average prices would decrease. Now, very quickly, a lot of people would say that that's a downside, but actually, when you look at it, it means that your gold is then actually going to buy more. It gives an increased value to the gold that you already have. Any gold that you make goes further. Prices going down is not always a bad thing. Now, of course, you've got to be careful when it comes to crafted items, that if you're buying materials to craft items to then sell, you'd want to make sure you're still making a profit. But generally speaking, things being that little bit cheaper will mean that your gold goes further, reducing the need for you to farm and create even more gold than you already do. And in turn, this would probably remove about 90% of the worthless junk on the auction house. There's a lot of trash on the auction house currently. Why? Because it's a glorified storage unit for many people in this game. They can post it on the auction house, they just repost it once every couple of days. They have no care in the world about how much they list it for. They probably have no intention of selling half of it. If something does sell, cool, great, they're a little bit richer than they were before. But it means that most of the stuff on the auction house is just trash, and it will get rid of a lot of that. There are some cons though. There are always some downsides to any change of this nature. There will be a greater impact on slower selling items. Your transmog market, your past expansion crafts are going to take a bit of a hit with this change. I appreciate that. But we could definitely hope that an alternative solution may appear. I mean, dare I say it, we do have trade chat. Whilst it is absolutely spammed with boost sellers at the moment, hopefully it may promote some, interactive, sales, one-on-one, face-to-face sales again, a little bit more so. You might hunt down that, elite crafting leatherworker on your realm. You may ask that guild member to craft something for you, give them a small fee instead. It may promote some, actual people talking to each other, heaven forbid, in an MMO, which I think, although it's a con initially, that you may be less inclined to sell these slower rate items on the auction house, I think there are alternatives that people could fall back on. The big downside, though, is it does make the auction house a little bit more of a risk to use. It means that you're, in essence, risking the gold you've already made to try and sell something on the auction house, but that in turn would remove, like I said, if we remove a lot of the trash and remove the cancel scan meta, your chance of actually selling things only goes up. But I'll leave it there. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on this, whether you think this would work or not. I've given it a fair amount of thought, and I think it's not only relatively easy for Blizzard to be able to implement something like this, but B, I think the pros and cons balance out so that there are more pros to it than there are cons, which in turn means it can only be a good thing, right? But let me know in the comments down below. Give the video a like if you enjoy this kind of content, boys and girls. Subscribe if you're new around here. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.